Hello, everybody. Welcome to Web.0, the Read Write Web. Today, we're going to be talking about a few um, applications that are considered Web 2.0 applications and how you might use them in your professional practice and then also in your classroom. First, I thought, whoops. First, I thought we would talk about what in the world is Web 2.0 before we get started. The internet used to consist of several static pages of information that users read, viewed, and then used. Now, the content is becoming much more participatory. With Web 2.0 tools, you can not only view content, but you can participate with what's out there. You can collaborate on projects, you can make connections with other people with similar interests or subject matter experts. Users can create content of their own that they can then share as well. All right. First thing we're going to talk about is a blog or a weblog. With a blog, what that is it's an easily created, easily updatable website that allows an author or authors to publish instantly to the internet. So from any internet connection, you can instantly publish content to a blog. So you don't need a webmaster, you don't need any special training or special software. The software is all hosted online. So you sign up for a web hosting service and then you can instantly create content and post it to the internet. What the blog does is it gives you the opportunity to create links within your ideas. So you can hyperlink to other resources on the web that support what you're talking about. And blogs also connect with the readers because it allows readers to comment to what you're saying in your blog. Now, what can you use a blog for? Well, professionally, you could use a blog for discussion on issues before or after meetings. It's often very difficult to get everybody together in one time and place to have a meeting, and that face-to-face time is often limited. But a lot of times when you're in a faculty meeting or something like that, it would be really nice to have an opportunity to discuss an issue in greater detail. So this way, you could put out an idea out on the blog beforehand that the faculty could discuss before the meeting. And then, can everybody hear me? I see Jonathan is saying that he has lost the audio. Okay, all right. It's looking like other people are saying that they can hear okay. Um, but what you can do with the blog um, is you can discuss ideas either before or after the faculty meeting. If you have something you want to continue discussing online later on, you could also put that out on the blog. Another thing that you could use a blog for is to share what's going on in your class. Many teachers use a blog to communicate with parents. You can post upcoming assignments, especially if you have a project that's going to take an extended period of time. You can post links to resources for the students and for the parents. If students are absent from your class for a particular day, they could go out to your blog and see what the assignments were or what happened in your class that particular day. You could share what your students have done in class. You can also use your blog as kind of your own personal journal, and you can connect with other educators or other professionals and share your ideas and discuss certain issues that are going on in the field of education. And within your posts, you can share links to relevant information. For example, say you see something on somebody else's blog that you want to discuss in your own, you could put a link to that blog. Or if you watch a video on YouTube that you want to discuss, or you see a particular news story that you want to discuss in your blog, you could put links to those particular resources for people who visit your blog to go back to and view. You can also use a blog to create a web page. Now, when you're creating a web page, a lot of times you might want to turn off the commenting feature. Blogs allow users to comment on what you write, but you can usually in most programs turn that off as well. So then you can post information, but other people just view it. So it's more like a traditional web page instead of a blog. Instructionally, you can use blogs for several different purposes as well. For example, you might use it as an online portfolio. The way a blog works is each new post is shown at the top of the blog, and then old posts are archived chronologically. So this way, students can put all their writing in a blog, and then the teacher or the students can go back and look at the progress that that particular person has made over a period of time. And then also, as a blog, uh, you can see you can do peer editing and feedback. So the teacher can comment on the student's writing, but also other students can see the writing and comment on how their classmates are doing as well. Blogs work great as journals. So any journaling purpose that you might use in your classroom already, you could do in a blog. Um, Blogs are great for connecting with subject matter experts. For example, say you're going to have a speaker come into your class. Say you're going to be talking about the stock market and you're going to have a stockbroker come into your class. Your students could post questions that they have for the stockbroker out on the blog, and then the stockbroker could look at those questions beforehand to prepare before he or she comes in to talk to the class. And then after the class is over, the students can continue to connect with that person and ask additional questions that they might have as they continue to learn more. So that's another way that you might use a blog in your classroom. You could use a blog for an online discussion on a number of different issues. For example, say you're reading a novel in class. The teacher might put questions, reflection questions, on the assignment that the students are supposed to read that particular night. Questions about student privacy issues. Well, most blogs and wikis, which we're going to talk about later, um, have in their privacy settings, so you can set it up so that only certain people can view and only certain people can comment to the blog or the wiki. For example, if you're using it with students, you can set it up so only the students in your class can view and comment on other people's um, writings. You can even set it up if you want to, so only you as the teacher can view other students' writings. So you have a lot of control over how you want to set that up. So you have a great deal of flexibility as far as how much sharing and how much collaboration you want to allow. And that depends on your school's acceptable use policy and different policies that your school might have as far as um, uses of different online applications. It will also depend on the grade level that you're using these resources for as well. Whenever you're using blogs or wikis or any of these other types of tools, you should always contact the parents and let them know what you're going to be doing, and kind of give them your approach for how you plan to keep the students safe in this online environment. Okay, there's another question about the authentic audience. Um, that certainly, if you set privacy issue or privacy, um, if you set the privacy too high on the blog or the wiki, it does kind of take away from that authentic audience. That's something that you really want to determine um, based on your own situation and what you're using the blogs and wikis for. If you want to allow the students to be able to connect with more people outline, then you would want to um, allow more people access to the blogs and wikis. If you would want to keep the privacy at a higher level, then they wouldn't have as much access to outside contact. And Jonathan pointed out parent contact is important. That definitely is important. It's a good idea to always send home a letter to parents detailing what you're planning on doing and how you're planning on using these resources. All right, how do you create a blog? Both when you're creating a blog and a wiki, it's fairly easy to set up. You find a online blog or wiki hosting service and you sign up for an account. And then if you're creating a blog, you basically just click on create a blog, choose a template, and you choose a name and a blog address and check for availability. And then you're ready to start publishing. You can publish pictures, videos, you can type links in. So there's any number of things that you could put both on your blog or on your wiki. Now, what are some free blog sources? 21 Classes is a great source for classroom use, especially if you're using it with an elementary classroom. It's a little bit more geared for classrooms in that the teacher has to grant access to outsiders to view and comment on the blog. So it's a pretty secure environment. The teacher hosts the account, so students don't need their own email address. And then the teacher sets up separate blogs for each of the students. The students can view each other's work and they can comment on it. Um, it has a smiley face rating system so students can give each other a quick rating back on their responses, and so can the teacher, and then they can also add comments as well. But this allows the teacher to set up a class where all the students together are hosted in one place, but they each have their own separate blog where they can do their own journaling and their own writing. WordPress, EduBlogs, and Easy Journal are other resources that are free that are used quite a bit for education. Blogger is a great blogging tool. I don't personally recommend it for use with students because every blogger tool, every blogger blog will have what's called a next blog tab on it. If you click on that next blog tab, it'll automatically take you to the next random blog, which may or may not contain appropriate content for your students. So because of that, I wouldn't use it myself with students. I think it's fine if you're going to use it professionally as your own personal journal, but I wouldn't use it in a classroom setting. Again, it's up to you to decide what you are comfortable with. The advantage of using Blogger is it has a lot of additional features that you can add to your blog. For example, you could add a map that'll give you little red dots that'll show the location of all the people that have visited your blog. So there's a lot of different features that you can easily add to your blog. Blogger also contains a lot of templates that you can use that are already preset. So all of these that you see in front of you are free for the basic blog hosting service. Now, if you want advanced features, you can pay for scaled up features if you wish to. Um, I see somebody uses WPMU. There are other blog services that you can host on your server if your school requires a WordPress multi-user. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, there are other things that you can use that you can host on your server that give you more control and more privacy if that's something that you need. I'm going to share with you a few examples of classroom blogs. The first one is from Will Richardson. He's published a series of books on using different Web 2.0 technologies. Um, he started out using blogs with his literature class. His class was reading the book The Secret Life of Bees. And what he did is he connected with the author of the book, and the author went out to their blog and commented back to the students as they were discussing the book. So that's one of the examples of using a blog and having a little more um, little less privacy is you can bring in outsiders that can comment to your blog and interact with the students. Here's another one, the English Corner. This one is a 6th grade language arts class, and here you see a student post about Atlanta's race. What the teacher did is each segment of the book that they were reading, the teacher would post reflection questions, and then the students would log in and write about that particular segment of it. Here we have Planet Infinity. This is a math blog. And what you see here is this particular teacher has embedded a slideshow that shows pictures of the different hands-on math activities that she has used in her classroom. So here's an example of a teacher sharing some of the projects and activities that her classroom is doing. Here we have a social studies blog. Now this particular teacher again has embedded a SlideShare presentation. You could also embed a YouTube video, so it doesn't have to just be text that you're putting on your blog. You could put a podcast or any number of things. In this particular case, um, you might put a uh, SlideShare in, have the students view that SlideShare, and then they could comment on different things that they have seen. There's a question on if you can get copies of the links. If you send me your email or send me an email to nicole.muth@cuw.edu, I will email you a copy of my original PowerPoint that has all the links to the websites right in it, so you'll have the PowerPoint and the links as well. Thank you, Bernard. Okay, next application we're going to talk about a little bit is a wiki. Now, what is a wiki? Well, wiki comes from the Hawaiian word for quick, wiki wiki. So what a wiki is basically it's a quick and easy way to write and publish content which anyone can edit at any time. Now, that anyone can edit at any time might be a little bit intimidating, but just like a blog, you can set privacy guidelines so only invited members to edit. What I do when I use a wiki with my class is I usually set mine up so anybody can view it, but only members of my class can edit it. So that way we can share all the work that my students have done with other people, but only my class can go in and edit it. Now that editing part can still make you a little bit uncomfortable when your students are going in and editing the work of other people. But what's nice about a wiki is every wiki has a history in it. And so if somebody edits something that they didn't want changed, you can always revert back to previous versions of the wiki. Or you can pull up an old page, copy and paste a piece of it that got changed back into the current version. So you can always undo anything that's edited. So it's pretty safe. You can't break it, but it's a great way to allow students to collaborate and work together. So how are blogs and wikis different? Well, wikis allow users to post content and allows other people to edit and then add to what's posted. But a blog, one user typically posts the content and then others comment on it. In a blog, you can't edit the original post. So when you're deciding whether you want to use a blog or a wiki, you want to look at what your purpose is of that for that particular resource. If you want something that allows you or your students to write and other people to comment to it, you would want to use a blog. If you don't want other people to edit what is written, you'd want to go with a blog. If you want to allow people to work together, then you'd want to use a wiki. Um, Another way that blogs and wikis are different is the way you're allowed to post new information to it. With a wiki, you might have several pages that are linked together. Typically, there's a tab, a side tab in the wiki that indexes all the different pages that you can click on at any time. And then new content can be added anywhere to any page at any time. And then also, a lot of wikis also have a discussion tab, so you can have a discussion behind the page as well to talk about different things that have been edited or how you might improve that particular page. As the teacher, you might be monitoring students as they're working on their project, and in the discussion page, you might put comments for things that they need to add to their project as they continue working. In a blog appears kind of in a journal type format. So the newest post is always on top and all your posts are always chronological. So if you want to be able to input new information anywhere, um, then you're going to go with a wiki. If you want the new information to appear chronologically, you would go with a blog. So how would you use a wiki? Well, instructionally, you might use it for a collaborative project or a group research project. So you could set up a wiki, and then what would happen would students would be able to work together on a group project and post material and edit it together. You could have different pages for each group, or each group could have their own separate wiki, depending on how you set it up. But this would allow the students to put all their research together and continue to add to it throughout that particular unit. You might also use a wiki as a presentation tool. Um, if you string together several pages, you could use it a lot like you might use a PowerPoint. The advantage would be you could open it up so other people could access it at any time, unlike your PowerPoint, which would be, there are ways that you could share your PowerPoint as well, but a wiki is something that if you make it public, then all you have to do is give people the URL and then your presentation would be out there. You could use a wiki to share resources. A lot of times teachers will set up a wiki for their unit with all the resources for the students in it, all the directions for the project, all the discussion questions students will have, and so on. All the grading resources are all out there for the students to go back to and refer to at any time. Another thing that a lot of times classes use wikis for is to create a book. And the students might create that book collaboratively, or they might do separate books, or they might be each creating a page for the book. Professionally, you could use a wiki to as a committee to keep track of your work. If you're working on a project that's going to be continually updated and you're going to be continually editing and changing things as you go along, a wiki might be a great tool for that. A wiki works really well um, for a collection of best practices. Say you want to share some of the things you've been doing in your classroom. You might have a series of different titles or for different subject areas where teachers can log in and share some of their teaching strategies. You might have a wiki for curriculum, where you might have the curriculum for each grade level, and then teachers could go in and edit it as necessary. And you might have a wiki as a procedure manual or a web page. Now, some of these things you would want to limit the number of people that could be editing it. So, for example, if you have your curriculum in a wiki, you would not want to have your wiki open to anyone to come in and edit. Again, just like a blog, you can set your privacy settings. If you're using a blog as a web page, there's probably going to be certain people that have access to go in and edit the wiki, but then anybody would be able to view it. So those are just a few examples of how you might use a wiki. You are probably familiar with Wikipedia. Now, Wikipedia sometimes makes educators shudder a little bit because sometimes students use Wikipedia and cite it as one of their primary resources. But as students begin to understand what blogs and what wikis are and how you use them, you can also teach them how anybody can post information to a wiki or to a blog. So when you're accessing things like blogs and wikis while you're doing your research, it's really important to find out who is the writer of that information and then verify that information. You would not want to cite Wikipedia as your primary resource for your research paper. So you can use that kind of as an introductory discussion to, what resources would be good authoritative sources for research and which ones are okay to start with, but then, how would you then check up on and verify what you are finding? Okay, classroom examples of wikis. The first one we have here is a first grade classroom. This first grade class wrote a hockey story. And what they did is they started out and the teacher wrote it as the students gave her examples. And then they continued to update it. And you can see they added pictures to their story and they shared it with the world so everyone could see um, what they were doing in their class. Here's another example of a wiki that was used in a class. This is the Sign of the Beaver wiki. This wiki was used for a teacher to share a discussion about the book, The Sign of the Beaver. You can see over on the side, um, there's book predictions. So the students made predictions about what they thought was going to be happening in the book. Then there was a discussion of the different themes of the book. There were vocabulary words. All of the resources for this particular unit on this book were created in the wiki. And then you also can see in this tab on the left-hand side where it says your project, and that's what you're seeing on the screen right now. The teacher detailed exactly what was supposed to be done in the project, and then there's a link, your projects, where you can see some of the projects that the students created. There's also resources and then some information for teachers. This next wiki is a wiki that compares different hemispheres. This wiki started out in a classroom where one student made a comment that he or she had heard that water in a whirlpool spins the opposite direction in the southern hemisphere. So what the teacher did is the teacher contacted a school that was at about the same distance from the equator, but in the southern hemisphere. And then the students worked together to study different things about living in the southern hemisphere versus living in the northern hemisphere. So what they did is they created a list of different things that they wanted to find out, and then they worked collaboratively to share how things were in the um, northern hemisphere versus how things were in the southern hemisphere. Okay, what stops a student from editing the teacher's copy? Well, you can um, you can lock certain pages. So for example, if you're putting directions out there, you can lock that particular page so that students can't edit that page. Or you can also in the settings set it up so that um, students can only edit certain pages and not other pages. So if you have a page for each group, you can set up the group so the group can only edit the content on their page. So in the settings for your wiki, there's several security and privacy settings so that you can control who can edit what information. And in all of the wikis, you'll see this history tab up here. It's different places in different wikis, but if you click on the history, it'll give you a list of um, it'll give you a list of all of the different changes that have been made to that particular page. So you can always go back to anything and pull it back up and then copy and paste it back into your wiki. So you don't have to worry about somebody changing things and having to recreate it. It's all stored in the history. You'll also see up on the top next to page, it says discussion. That's where I talked about how you can have a discussion behind the page as well. So students can discuss what they're doing before they actually change it and post it to the web page. With your wiki, you're going to want to set up some guidelines for your students as far as what they're allowed to change, what they're not allowed to change, how they should go about changing somebody's work or editing somebody else's work. What I do with my wiki is I usually have students post something in the discussion part if they change somebody else's work and just kind of make a comment on what changes they made and why they made them, just so we can kind of keep track of the changes that are going on. You can also subscribe to the wiki so you get an email notification anytime a change happens, and it'll show you what was changed and where. So that way you can kind of keep track of what's going on with the wiki a little bit easier rather than trying to hunt through every page to find out what has been changed. Here's another example. This is the Teach Web 2.0 wiki. This wiki's been developed by a group of teachers, and anybody can join the wiki and continue to add to it. This has a host of different Web 2.0 technologies, and you'll see there's what they call a SWOT analysis. It identifies the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of each application. It talks about different applications online. So, for example, if you're looking at blogs, it might give you several different sites that you can go to host your blogs for education. Um, the other thing you're going to see is effective and appropriate educational applications. So, in other words, ways you can use this in the classroom. Now, for my class, building online learning communities, we're going to be creating a similar uh, wiki ourselves. So what we're going to be doing is the students in the class are going to be posting all of their work out here on this wiki, and then each class is going to continue to add to it. So as time goes on, the wiki is going to continue to grow into this great teaching resource for everybody to see. The wiki is open for anybody to view, but only the students that are in my class would be able to post material to it and edit it. There are a number of free wiki sites. PBWiki is the one that I generally have used the most. Wikispaces is another one that's used quite a bit in education. SeedWiki and Rightboard are two others, but there's a whole host of different wiki resources out there that are free. Again, um, some wiki sites do have upgraded features that you can sign up for at a cost. Different features have different fees. One thing to be aware of if you're using a blog or if you're using a wiki, most of the free versions have a certain limited amount of memory. So if you're going to be doing things like putting a lot of video inside that blog or inside that wiki, you might have to upgrade it to one of the versions that you have to pay for. One other application that you might consider checking into would be podcasting. Podcasts are kind of similar to blogs, but they're basically an audio or video version. So instead of a text blog, um, then what you might do is you might record an audio version or a video version of what you're going to say. Um, One example would be the teacher's podcast. This is an example of two educators who have put together a series of podcasts about technology resources. So they talk a lot about issues related to technology and education. These podcasts you can download to your MP3 player or your iPod, and you can use it as anytime, anywhere professional development. Um, Other things you can do with podcasts is you can use them in your classroom. You can have students create podcasts so they can create a audio or a video presentation instead of writing a paper. They might do a newscast or a commercial or something like that, and they could do it in a podcast, and then you could share it on your blog or on your wiki or things like that. So you could share the work that your students have created again with parents and other people in the community. So there's another number of search engines that you can go to look at examples of different podcasts, but those are just a few examples of how you might use a blog either in the classroom or I'm sorry, a podcast in the classroom or use a podcast for your own professional development. If you happen to have a long commute, which I do, I download several podcasts each week and then listen to them in the car. Another application is social bookmarking. Now, you might be familiar with using the My Favorites um, in your web browser. Social bookmarking works very similar to that, but what it does is it allows you to save your favorite sites online. You may have had the experience where you saved a whole bunch of sites in your My Favorites and then you got a new computer. Well, guess what? Then you had to resave all those sites in your My Favorites again. Or maybe you saved these sites in your My Favorites at your home computer and then you went to school and guess what? You didn't have access to them anymore. Well, with social bookmarking, it's all hosted online, so you have access to it from any online connection. The other thing it does is as you save sites, it allows you to share them with other people. So you can see who else has saved that site, and then you can look at what else they have saved. You can't change their sites. You can't get in and edit them or anything, but you can see what other things they have saved using that same keyword or just other things they've saved in general. So it allows you to connect with other people that have the same interests as you or that are looking for the same types of information. Now, that can be helpful because it can take you to other sites that might be relevant to the things that you're looking for. Um, Another thing that you can do with social bookmarking is you can use unique keywords that only your group would use, and that way it allows you to share a bunch of resources with other people. For example, in my classes, in my methods class, I've had students save sites on teaching mathematics, and then what they've done is they've used a particular tag word, like we'll use um, math methods spring 2007 or something like that. Whatever keyword you want that no other person would use accidentally, you can use. And then students save sites using that keyword. And then when they search for that keyword, they get all sorts of sites that their particular group has saved. It also allows you to make comments about the site. Furl, Delicious, and Digo are just three social bookmarking sites. They each have their own advantages. Furl I liked because it allowed you to export your selected sites in APA or MLA format. So that was kind of nice if you're doing research. Delicious I liked because it was fairly simple and there are a lot of people that use it. Now, Digo is one I've just started using in the last semester, and that one has a lot of really nice extra features. So I wanted to share that one a little bit more. Digo I started using with my math methods class, and you can see we were also experimenting with creating avatars as an alternative to using pictures of yourself or pictures of students. Um, but what we did is we set up a group for our class. Digo also combines a social network in it. So you can create a group for your students. And again, you can set privacy on it so that only your students can um, comment and uh, save things to this particular group. And then students can, when they save a site, share it with the group. So that way, the group gets all of these sites together. But you can also have discussions within the group, and there are a lot of extra features of it. Another thing that you can do with Digo is Digo allows you to highlight things on the web page and save those highlights. So not only does it save that site, but when you click on the link and go back out to the site, you can see the information you highlighted. You can add sticky notes on it, so you could highlight a piece of information and then write a comment for your students telling them you want them to read something or reflect on something or giving them a discussion question or something related to that particular site. Now, if you're a little concerned with making a commitment to one particular social network, what's nice is most of them allow you to import your resources from another site. So for example, I was experimenting with Furl and Delicious. Then I switched to Digo. What I did is I just imported everything into Digo, so then I didn't have to go back out and resave everything. It imported all my sites. I did have to do a little bit updating to some of my tags, but other than that, everything was there. So that's just another resource that you might use. Now, with any of these, internet safety and ethical use of the internet is always important. So here's just a couple resources that you might use in your classroom to teach your students about how to safely and ethically use online resources. CyberSmart is one that I like quite a bit. It has ready to use classroom activities for K to 8. So there's a whole variety of different lessons. Some use the computer, some do not, but it really teaches students how to work with other people, how to collaborate, and how to safely use the internet. iSafe has a variety of online materials for educators, for students, and for parents. There's videos that you can use if you're doing some kind of a parent session. And then WebWise Kids also has different programs and online games that students can use and can interact as they're learning about how to correctly and safely use some of these online applications. Now, some of the advantages of using some of these things is you can teach your students how to use these types of things in, first of all, a safe environment, and then as they learn how to use them correctly, you can um, reduce the privacy levels and still monitor their use of these materials as they're connecting with other people from outside the classroom as well. So it's a good way to begin to teach students how to properly use these. We hear a lot in the news about students improperly using things like social networking and other things and sharing things they shouldn't be sharing. But these are some of the ways that you might kind of introduce your students proactive in a positive way to some of these techniques. Um, those are some of the main things that I wanted to talk with you about today. Are there any other follow-up questions or comments? Oh, sites that combine both blogs and wikis. Hmm. I believe there are some sites that do those types of things. I'm not familiar with anything off the top of my head. Um, if you are going to combine something like that, typically you would have two separate um, activities, but what you might do is you might link them together. Oh, Moodle would be something, or content management system. We're going to be using Angel starting next year, and Angel also has a wiki within it. So there are things like that that you can use, that you might use in an online type environment that have both a discussion board type application like a blog and then a wiki as well. Any other questions?
Well, I'm going to jump in here, Nicole. I'm welcome to stick around, and you can do a little more Q&A. I noticed Cindy just posted a question, but I'm going to do my regular end of the presentation spiel, and then I'll be quiet, and I'll move on and help or move on to the next presentation. But for those of you who are present, some of you who've been attending several sessions, you already know this, but each time that you attend a live session, you are eligible to resubmit your name in the online form that makes you eligible for our drawing, our prize drawing, that includes a couple of iPod Shuffle, some flash drives, and also a $500 scholarship toward a graduate EdTech course at CUW. And if you're a Lutheran church worker, there are some other scholarships available too that could really drop the course cost down to almost nothing. So here is the link to that online form that I encourage you to fill out. You do have, there are little red asterisks beside the areas that you need to fill out. So please do